Hey everyone! If you don't live under a boulder, you've certainly heard of ChatGPT by now. I've seen a bunch of cool videos of people creating stuff with the help of ChatGPT, so I figured I'd hop on the trend and try to do some content with it myself. Our goal today is to prompt ChatGPT so it creates a game for us. It's not going to be able to make the art, but the game concept, code, and structure in general will all be decided by the AI. Let's get started. First up, we need a game idea. So I'll ask it to give me a very simple arcade game idea. I also gave it a few examples of games so it understands what we're going for. We want it to be a fast project, so we're gonna go with a very simple game. Some simple examples I give it are like Flappy Bird, Fruit Ninja, or Jetpack Joyride. I sent the prompt, and now we just have to wait for our response. So here's what it had to propose. The name of the game is Bubble Pop Blitz. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really like the sound of it so far, but let's keep reading. Here are the gameplay elements this gave for us. The game screen consists of a background with bubbles floating upwards. The player controls a bubble popping character at the bottom of the screen, either by swiping or tapping. I'm gonna be making the game for computers and not mobile devices, so instead of tapping and swiping, the player will use mouse clicks. Now the objective is to pop as many bubbles as possible within a fixed time limit, let's say 1 minute. Each bubble popped earns the player points. There can be different types of bubbles, each with its own characteristics. For example, some bubbles might be larger and worth more points, while the other might move faster or have special effects. Personally, I'd say the opposite, as smaller bubbles would be harder to click, but today we'll let the AI take the decisions. Additionally, there could be power-ups or bonuses that appear occasionally, such as time extensions, score multipliers, or temporary special abilities like a bubble magnet that attracts nearby bubbles. Okay, so that's a pretty decent idea for a gameplay concept. There's a bit of variety with power-ups and such, which is good. Now let's see what it has to say about progression. The player's score is displayed on the screen during gameplay, and it increases with each bubble popped. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a pretty basic feature. At the end of each 1 minute round, the player's score is displayed along with their high score. The high score is saved and can be used for friendly competition between friends or players worldwide. We can save the high score locally, no problem, but I'm not too sure about worldwide leaderboards though. As players progress and achieve higher scores, they can unlock new character skins or backgrounds, adding a layer of customization and motivation to keep playing. That's a classic mobile game progression, there's nothing wrong with that. Pretty straightforward, onto the visuals and audio now. The game can have a colorful and visually appealing graphics with vibrant bubbles and visually distinct power-ups. Simple animations and particle effects can be used to enhance the visual feedback when bubbles are popped or power-ups are activated. Catchy and upbeat background music, along with satisfying popping sounds and cheerful audio cues, can further engage players and make the game enjoyable to play. The music I'm sure we can manage, but the vibrant and visually appealing graphics, well, we'll have to see what we can find for free online, cause there's no way I can make that myself. Alright, well there's our concept. Let's get started on making it. I first opened Unity and created a new project with the 2D URP template. Now, time to let ChatGPT do the rest of the work for us. I started by asking what I should do first to make this game come true in Unity. It actually gave me a very detailed step-by-step plan on how to make the game, so we're going to follow that. The first step, according to the AI, is to download Unity and create a new project, which we already did. The second step is to create the main scene. Alright, so it wants me to choose a suitable background, then create the character and place it at the bottom of the screen. For our suitable background, I went on the asset store and downloaded these simple backgrounds. We can either use a different background for every difficulty level, or just choose a random one when the player starts the game for a bit of variety. I imported the backgrounds into the project and added one in our scene for now. It was kind of blurry, and even after removing quality compression, it still looked a bit weird, so I scaled it down to half the original size, since our camera isn't going to be moving anyway. That way, our background looks much better. Now we also need to add a character at the bottom of the screen. I need some kind of character that shoots projectiles to destroy the balloons, and luckily, I found a super cool free vertical shooter asset pack to import into the project. It doesn't make a lot of sense with the current background, but unfortunately, we are pretty limited with free assets. I added the player to our scene. The last thing to do to complete step 2 is to add a script to control our character. Since ChatGPT said the character needed to be on the bottom of the screen, I'm going to assume it has to stay there, so I'm going to lock vertical movement and only allow horizontal movement. Just a bit of coding magic and our character can now move on the horizontal axis, and just like that, we have our basic movement. I also used the different sprites in the asset pack to create some very basic animations for the character. And with that, step 2 is done. Time to go to step 3 now. We have to create the bubbles and the script logic to spawn them. It says to either create a bubble asset or find a suitable one on the asset store, so off to the asset store we go. I found this free bubble pack, so that's what we're gonna go with. Now we need to create a script that randomly spawns these bubbles. Let's ask ChatGPT to write it for us. After all, it's in charge of this game. I simply copied the code it wrote and followed the instructions it gave me to make it work, and let's give it a shot. Okay, so it works, but the bubbles all spawn at the same point, which is kind of boring, but if ChatGPT says that's what it wants, I have to listen. The next step in the process is to implement bubble popping mechanics. Once again, let's make the AI generate the code for us. I once again copied the code and followed the instructions provided with it. The code started with an error in it, but the instructions specified on how to make it work. After that, I gave each different bubble a score from 1 to 5. I also quickly created a small particle effect for when the bubbles are popped, as requested by ChatGPT. Step 4 should now be done, so let's test it out. Okay, even though I click, the bubbles don't seem to register clicks. Let's ask ChatGPT why. It seems it forgot to tell us that the bubbles need a collider for this to work. I added that to the bubbles, and now let's test it out again. And it works perfectly. Let's go to the next step. Step 5 is time and score management. We're gonna have to create a timer to stop the game and display the remaining time as well as the score on the screen. Let's ask it to do that for us. You know the drill by now, copy and paste the code, and once again there were a few errors, but after following the instructions everything was fine. One thing I didn't like in the instructions is that it told me to just write the code of what I want to happen at the end of the game, but I don't want to decide that, so I asked it to write it for me. Much better. Now I created the UI manually and asked ChatGPT to provide the code to make it work for me. I pasted the code, but I noticed something weird. The game manager was already updating the text in the code it gave me, but this is the job of the UI manager, so I deleted it from the game manager. ChatGPT's coding practices are not the best I've ever seen. Alright, now that that's set up, let's try it out. Neither the time or the score seems to work. Time to find out what's wrong. Of course, I'll ask ChatGPT first, since it wrote the code. It just gave me back the exact same code as before, so I'm gonna have to go fix it myself, it seems. Good, so as it turns out, it was actually a small mistake on my part, and now everything works. Great, time to move on to step 6. For this step, we need power-up and bonuses. The AI will not only generate the code structure for us in this step, but I'll also ask it to implement the power-ups and give me all the power-ups ideas. After copying all the code, it came up with double score and add more time as the 2 possible bonuses. So that's what I implemented. It didn't really give me any indication on how to spawn the power-ups or what they should look like, so I just made it so popping a bubble has a 20% chance of spawning a power-up. Time to test. It works, and with that, ChatGPT's game is pretty much complete. Honestly, it wasn't too bad. There are a couple things I changed though, like making the bubble spawns random, but honestly, for someone just starting and looking to create their first game, ChatGPT is a very good resource. That's it for me this week. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, follow me on Twitter, leave a comment, but most importantly, stay hydrated, and I will see you next week. Bye!